Thank you very much, and thank you for having me to this conference. Actually, I haven't got the slightest idea how she presented me, but I hope it was in the right way. So we are going to talk about women's health. And this is a conference for women and for mothers and for healthy mothers and healthy women. Are you healthy and happy mothers and women? Yeah, good, good. So am I. I am a really happy and healthy mother too. So what you can see on the screen is 3 of my boys. It's the older one, you can see over there. And the small kid is their new little brother. So you know, some things happen in your life and you can get divorced, which I have done. But it's very important to have this healthy and happy life. And I really want to be a role model for my kids, and of course for myself and for my clinic and for my staff and for all patients and clients that we are meeting in the clinics. So I don't want to be sick, I don't want my kids to be sick, and of course I want to learn, all of you, how you can do to have a good health. So maybe we're going to talk about 5 of the most common women health problems, and maybe you think this is to how you can generalize health like this. There are of course lots of factors that can come upon to you and that can create illnesses and different problems with the body. But in the clinics we can see a pattern of what's going on and what process is going on in your body. And the most common problems that we meet is hormonal disturbances, like thyroid problems, insulin resistance, leptin resistance, and other hormonal problems. And you have a lecture earlier this morning with a doctor from the US talking about all of these hormones. So I'm not going to talk so much about hormones, but thyroid hormone problems is very, very common, and I will come back to that. We have a problem with stomach and intestine diseases. How many of you have a swollen stomach sometimes? Yes, I guess most of you sometimes have that. We are going to talk about cardiovascular problems, cardiovascular diseases, and weight problems, and of course breast concerns. That is a really important thing to take care of, your breasts. So there are many, many parameters in health. And I will take you on a journey how you can prevent and have a much healthier and longer life. So maybe you have to wake up a little bit and think about how is your life look like, how can you do, what are your daily routines, maybe you have to change your lifestyle a little bit, maybe you have to learn how to recognize your symptoms. And in our clinics we're looking for all of these parameters, and it's over thousands and thousands of parameters and processes going on in your body. And you have to be aware of it, because it's so many things that you don't recognize and you don't know about what's going on in your body. So that's what I want to learn you, and take responsibility for your own health and your body. So today we are in the hands of the food industry and the drug industry. And you know, we have a very stressful life. We, as mothers, maybe we have to leave the children in the kindergarten. We have to pick them up. We have to cook every day. We have to clean. We want to have fancy, nice houses. We want to look good for our husbands. You know, it's very stressful, isn't it? Yes. So it's very easy for us to just go into the store and buy some simple food to have a quick cook at home. We don't have the time to do all of this from the ground and do the thing that we were supposed to do. But actually it isn't so difficult. It's not so difficult. But today we eat this crap food, And then when we have a symptom like headache or something else, we just take a pill or a drug to reduce the symptoms. And then I don't want you to do that. I want you to learn how to deal with this problem and why you have this headache. So millions of years have gone when we, during the evolution, have been like mankind and just be the human being that we are today. That's a process for millions of years. But suddenly, something happened. And that is really suddenly. It's just during the last 35 years. And that is scary, isn't it? It's a very short time during the whole evolution. So I think what the problem is, just like this, I see food and I eat it. I'm a seafood diet. So, but it's not only the diet that is the only way that you are going sick and have different illnesses. There are lots of external factors too. We have all of this radiation from our cell phones. No one knows what's happening now when we're having the 5G all around us. We have lots of chemicals in our body lotions, makeup, in the food, mercury fillings, all over there are chemicals. So actually, I know it's not so easy to live during these days with all of these external factors all around us. But there are lots of things you can do to reduce these external factors. But with all of these external factors, we had all of these new diseases like obesity, rheumatisms, hormonal disturbances, diabetes, thyroid disturbances, cardiovascular diseases, reduced immune system, arthritis, arthrosis, pain in the joints and the muscles, inflammations, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, and you know, the list can be very, very long. And I think all of you know someone who's suffering from some of these diseases, or maybe from lots of them. How many of you know someone suffering from some of these diseases? It looks like everybody. So, there are so many warning signals before you have these diseases. You have to start to listen to your body and start to think a little bit of everything that you explore your body for. Every single day is good for you if you learn how to do to reduce all of these external factors. So many people today have lost their control over their own bodies, both mentally and physically. We just live in the flow. We just go around, no thinking about what's happening with our bodies. So you have to take responsibility for your own body and find yourself. Listen to your signals and listen to your body and find yourself again. How to do that? It sounds so easy, isn't it? I have to explain a little bit why I started this clinic and why I'm saying all of this that I have been saying and that I'm going to tell you. So I have worked with nutrition the whole of my life, and even if I was very healthy and lived a very healthy life, knowing everything about what to eat and how to eat, I suddenly get ill myself. And that was 10 years ago. So suddenly I couldn't use my arms. You know, I couldn't lift my arms longer than this. I couldn't eat myself. I couldn't dress myself. I have lots of tremors, you know, shaking. So when anybody took the hand on my arm, it's just like this. It was totally crazy. So my children have to help me to cook the food. They have to help me to dress myself. Sometimes they have to help me to eat. So that was really terrible. And that's when I came into the medical carousel and was sending around from the neurologist. They thought this was neurological problems, but the neurologist, he thought it was orthopedic, and they sent me back and here and there, and no one could figure out what was the problem. So after 2 years with this, they gave up. They said, there's no problem with you. It must be in your head. And I think, oh, sure, no. I know there is a problem. I know it, I can feel it. No way that I'm going to have a life like this. I was 40 years old, and I have my wonderful kids. Should I have a mother that couldn't take care of them? No way. So that was the time when I started to look outside the box and see if there is any other possibility to help me with my health. And that was when I met Thomas Saxness, the founder of the health optimizing concept. Maybe many of you know him. I know he went to this conference last year. But I met Thomas Saxness, and we made different health assessments on my body. And of course, we found lots of problems in the body. There were so many processes that was going on that was not correct. My body was filled of parasites, microorganisms. They tell me that you have a food intolerance. No, I know everything about food. I can't have a food intolerance. That's not possible. The only thing that really works is my stomach and my intestines. No, you have a food intolerance. Okay. So that's when we started to get rid of all my problems. I have some different treatments. And today, of course, I can lift my arms, and I'm really happy and really healthy again. Thank you. So that's when I also started to think, how does these illnesses come? Where did my problem come from? So maybe you know Hippocrates. He's the father of medicine. So 2,000 years ago, he knew everything about why illnesses develops. And as I told you, I have this personal experience. So he said that illnesses do not come upon us of the blue. It just don't fall down and we wake up with this illness. Of course not. They are developed from small sins daily against nature. And when enough sins has been accumulated, illness will suddenly appear. And I know that because it takes lots of years. Diabetes, it takes 10 to 15 years to develop diabetes. It takes 10 to 15 years to develop cancer. So it takes time, and you have lots of time to reduce all of the symptoms in your own body, but you have to listen to the signals. So I just want to give you some numbers and common illnesses. Did you know that 45% of death is related to cardiovascular diseases and problems? Did you know that 40 to 50% of death is cancer related? Today, 1 of 3 will develop cancer. And in 2030, the doctors and they said that 1 of 2 will develop cancer. We don't want to have cancer. 68% of all Americans are overweight or obese. That's a huge amount. 0% dies from supplements. I don't know how it is in Lithuania, but in Sweden and Norway, some supplements are forbidden, and that's crazy. And 700 and out, I don't know what happened with the slides, I'm sorry. 700 out of thousands Americans dies from drugs and wrong medical treatments. So there is so much that you can do by yourself for your own health. So, as I told you, there are millions of processes going on in your body all the time, every second. And from nature, it's all kept in balance by your intrinsic self-regulating mechanism. Your body knows how it should be. Your body is capable to heal itself. But how many of these processes goes wrong and create these health problems? Yes, sometimes there is. So you have to make sure that your self-regulating mechanisms are not too overloaded by too much negative influence. So I told you about all of these external factors, like radiation. How many of you sleeps with your cell phone just towards your head in the night? How many of you? No one? Someone? So I read, that's not good because there are lots of radiation from the cell phones, and you can read about this, many studies about that. So I recommend you to put your cell phone on flight mode when you're sleeping. Everybody should do that. The wake-up alarm will work without having it on. So with the flight mode, it's very good. So good health is really simple. You just have to listen to your body. So what you can do for your health is to solve the existing health challenges. And that you can do by yourself, just like focusing and finding and removing the causations. So if you feel like something that you eat maybe has something to do with other things you feel in your body, just like headaches. With headaches, it's a little bit strange, because many people have their problems with headache because of digestive problems. And as I tell you, I have no problems with my stomach, but I was told that I have a food intolerance, and yes, I tested me for a food tolerance, and I have a food intolerance. So when you have a food intolerance, it's very common that you have headache, but you can have lots of other problems, but headache is really common with food intolerance. So you have to try that out by yourself. Try to reduce, try to get rid of something, just like gluten and dairy products. They are very difficult for us to digest and creates a lot of problems in the whole system. So that's very easy to try to get rid of that for a couple of weeks, just to find out how is my body works now. That's the easy way. You have to help your body to solve this problem. So if you find out that if I eat gluten, I have this swollen stomach, and if I get rid of gluten, my stomach works perfect. Of course you shouldn't eat gluten. That's very easy. So if you can't figure that out by yourself, there is a possibility to be helped in our clinics. So we are using a combination of state-of-the-art technologies just for different assessments and for different therapies. So the process in our clinics is to find out what's functioning right and what's functioning wrong. We always find out what the causative factors were. Like in my own case, the causative factors was all of these microorganisms. So we have to get rid of all of them. Then we always solve these causative factors and the specific problems. We stimulate your own body's self-regulating mechanisms, because when you have a problem that has adapted to you, your self-regulating system don't know any longer how to deal with it. So that's when you have these chronic problems. So sometimes we have to help the body to stimulate their own self-regulating mechanisms to deal with all of this. We always give this lifestyle coaching specific to the assessment. So that is really important. But there's many things you can do by yourself before you visit us. So if we start with one of the most common problems today for women, it's breast cancer. So cancer, it's breast cancer, that's the most common problem for just women. So in the clinic, we use this medical infrared screening just to find out what's going on with the breast. So why is it good to do this infrared screening? Do you know about infrared screening? Someone knows? Yes? So infrared screening is with an HD medical thermography camera, and we measure different temperature differences. So I think it's very important, because every hour women get a breast cancer diagnosis in Sweden, and in Sweden it's the same in all of the Western countries. So it's very common. And what we do with this assessment is that we see these imbalances in a very early stage. So if you see in the picture here, the green color, that is normal. it should be green, everything should be green. The red one, there is some inflammation. And then we have the white spots in the red, there is really inflamed areas. So we measure the difference, the temperature difference between these areas, and we can find out exactly how much in degrees the difference is. So in this case, you see there are some really hot spots. And when we are good to take a look at these pictures, we can see patterns for if it's supposed and if it's going to develop to breast cancer. And we can see if there are hormonal disturbances or maybe toxins, like in this case. This is a huge amount of toxins in this case. And of course, it's not so good to have toxins in your breast and in your lymph system in your breast. So we have to get rid of that. So we see all of these ongoing processes in the breast, towards the breast health. When we measure the temperatures. So the difference by doing these infrared screenings and doing mammograms, mammograms is the conventional method to investigate your breast health, is that if you do this infrared screening, we are seeing what are you doing, what processes are going on. And with medical infrared screening, we can see these differences 7 to 10 years before it will develop to cancer and before you will see it on the mammograms. So it's a really good thing to do this infrared screenings, because when we see there's an inflammation, it's very easy to get rid of this inflammation. So what are you doing? What have you done when you take mammograms? It's a little bit too late. When will it then develop to cancer? So in this picture, there is breast cancer. It's confirmed with a mammogram and with the ultrasound, and there is breast cancer. So we can see this pattern, and it's inflammation going down to the nipple. You see it's a little bit hotter around the nipple. And you know, all cancer cells, they want to give itself much more energy and sugar, so it creates own blood vessels just to give the cancer cells energy from sugar. So hormonal disturbances is really important not to develop breast cancer. So if you have these thyroid problems, it's more common to develop breast cancer if you have thyroid problems. Inflammations, of course, cancer is inflammation, so you have to get rid of inflammations in your body. High insulin levels. You know insulin, the hormone that we need to break down carbs in your diet. And insulin creates lots of inflammation. So if you have a high insulin level, you will have inflammations in your body. So if you have an ongoing process in your breast and you even have high insulin levels, that will easier develop to a more huge problem in your breast, of course. So it's very important to reduce the insulin levels. So you know you have to find out what to eat to reduce your insulin levels. Do you know that? Less carbs. Less carbs. Most of us eat too much carbs. We have this problem with root canals, you know, in your teeth. Did you know that 98% of all breast cancer has root canals? That's true. I'm not saying that just because you have a root canal, you need to have breast cancer. No, no, no. Take it easy, no problem. But it's more common to develop breast cancer if you have a root canal. So if you feel any problem with the teeth, or you have a root canal that you know there was huge problem with it, maybe you should talk to your dentist and investigate that further, because it could be a problem for you. We have all of these microorganisms. So from root canals, it's very common that you have bacteria going through your arterial system and your lymph system, and they can be all over your body, but of course in your breast too. Toxins. Toxins. What do you use under your arms, like deodorant? Have you thought about that? A healthy deodorant? I do my own. It's very healthy. Do you want the receipt? I'm just using what is in English now. It's bicarbonate. Or they translate it correctly, true? Bicarbonate. Coconut oil and potato flour. Do you know? So these 3 ingredients, just mix them together and take it under your arms. It's excellent. Even though I'm a little bit nervous, no smell. So it's very, very good. So I really recommend you to use something non-toxic under your arms, because this is the right canal right into your lymph system. And you know that the deodorants, they contains much of aluminium, and that's not good. So it's easy tips for you. We have all of this problem with radiation. Lots of women, they have their cell phone in their bra. I really hope you don't have that, because there are studies showing us that it really will develop breast cancer if you have your cell phone in your bra. So don't do that. So what can you do to prevent all of this? Yes, if we have these thyroid problems, we know that there is iodine, lack of iodine, and maybe you should take iodine for a while, but of course it's good to test yourself first so you don't take supplements that don't necessary for you. Maybe you have this wrong correlation about estrogen and progesterone. That's really important to find out. And I have tips to find out that too, but I think the time won't be enough to give you all of these tips, but you can ask me afterwards. Chlorella is very good to detoxify yourself. You can start to do lymph circulation on yourself, and dry brushing yourself. That is really, really good for your system. There are some supplements like selenium, that is very good, vitamin C, vitamin D, the sun. Go out, open up your breast, put away your bra, and just sit in the sun. That's the best thing to do for your breast health. Infrared sauna is very good to detoxify yourself. Have an anti-inflammatory diet, of course, and reduce your insulin levels. So just to show you an example, we have this woman. She had breast cancer, she had this surgery, chemotherapy, and this is, I think it was 6 months after this operation and all of these things she was going through. And you can see there is lots of inflammation still there in the breast, and it doesn't look so good around the nipple on the right breast. And she was living far away, in Sweden, but far away, so we couldn't treat her in the clinic in that time. So we sent her back with some tips how to do with dry brushing, some nutrients, and different things. And she came back after 2 months, and it looked like this. So, and this is perfect. So it's just to show you, it's so many things that you can do for yourself, for your own health. It isn't so difficult. You just have to be aware of it. Then we have all of these hormonal disturbances. So as I told you, thyroid problems is the most common issues that patients come and visit us for. And I think Levaxin, the medicine you have for thyroid problems, is in the 4th range of the most common medicines in the world, on the 4th place. So thyroid problems is really common. How many of you have thyroid problems? Yes, there are some. And I have always, now I started to wonder, why are we developing these thyroid problems? So just to take the medicine Levaxin, it don't find the root cause of why you have this problem with your thyroid. And we can see lots of problems with why you will develop thyroid problems. It's not only one single thing that develops the problem. There are lots of factors. So we often see these toxins factors. There could be heavy metals on the receptors on the thyroid. We even see problems with that you can't digest the food good enough. That will be a problem with your thyroid, it could be. So there are so many things and root causes to this problem. And we have the opportunity and the possibility to find out what is causing it. Because this Levaxine, we meet so many women that after a few years, the Levaxine doesn't work any longer. And, you know, it's not so funny to have this low energy levels all the times. You will have more fat on your body and all of these problems. So, of course, we want to help everybody with thyroid problems. There are, I think in Sweden, there is over 500,000 women that have thyroid problems. And I know that's much, much, much more of them, because it's very easy to diagnose the thyroid problems in the wrong way. And women that have all of the symptoms of the lack of a problem with the thyroid, they don't have the diagnosis of it. So this abnormal production of thyroid hormones is really, really common. But there are other hormones that is really important too, as we heard earlier this morning, so that's why I'm not going to talk so much about that. But we have this imbalance between different other hormones. And as I told you, the relation of estrogen and progesterone is really important too. And as I said, it's not too difficult to find out about that, so I can give you the tips of that later. Then we have this cardiovascular disease. And we are just talking cardiovascular diseases most when it comes to men's problems. And most of the studies is related to men's problem with cardiovascular and heart diseases. So in these thermograms, we can also see the problem. It's not as easy in that we have in other assessments, but as you can see in this picture, there is a cold area in the back, in the right place where the heart is. So when you have a bad circulation in your heart, of course that's not good. So 4 of 10 persons in Sweden dies of heart disease, 4 of 10. So as I told you, about 45%. And again, your diet, what are you eating? We have the fatty acid levels, and that is really important because you know these levels of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, that should be in the right position. You should have 1 equal 1. So if you have 1 omega-3, you should have 1 omega-6. But nowadays, as we are living right now, we have the 1 omega-3 and we have about 22, 23 omega-6. And omega-6 creates inflammatory processes in your body. So that's why it's so important to have these omega-3 fatty acids or to change your diet. You have to change your diet. So the problem with all of these omega-6 fatty acids, what was that? It's okay? Donald Trump. Oh no, I don't hope so. These omega-6 fatty acids we have in light products. So when we were told to start to eat margarine instead of butter, this problem started to decrease. So it's lots of omega-6 fatty acids in margarine and in low-fat products. So stop eating low-fat products and margarine and all of these crappy oils like sunflower oils and, it's so many oils that is not good for you. You should only have olive oils and coconut oil and butter. That's the easiest way, get rid of everything else. And maybe you have to take extra omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, we have, again, this insulin problem, because insulin creates inflammation in your arteries. And of course, when you have inflammation in your arteries, it's easier to have some problems. We have this deficiency of minerals and vitamins. So again, if you don't have a proper diet or when you can't digest your food good enough, you will have problems with the uptake of minerals and vitamins. So can you see the pattern? Everything is together. You have these weight problems if you're obese and overweight. Of course, that will disturb your heart and the cardiovascular disease. That is nothing new. Everybody knows about that. And then we have this problem with the bacteria and viruses again. And even just like when you develop breast cancer, cardiovascular diseases and the correlation to these root canals are so big. So take care of your tooth health. That's my deepest recommendation. So we often see in the assessment that people have lots of bacteria and viruses in their arteries and even in the heart. And of course it's very good to get rid of all of that. Then we have again these hormone problems, the insulin, but also for women it's very necessary to have the right levels of estrogen and progesterone. So if that's not functioning good enough, it will affect your cardiovascular health. Here is the root canals, yes. Did you know everything about this, about root canals and how dangerous it is? No. So here I just want to show you, this is from one of our assessments, and this is a woman as old as me, she's 51, and she has a blood pressure 161 through 106, that is really high, especially when you're 51, and we can see there is stiffness in the arteries. So this is not good. She has a fat percent of 51%, so she was really obese. And she had chronic inflammation in her body. So these are just numbers for you, but I can see what's going on in this body. And we just gave her a different nutrition and diet plan, and she followed that. And just about a couple of months, we see her cardiovascular health is much better. Sorry. There we are. So we can measure the difference, what's going on. We can see that her blood pressure is now 142 to 85, and the stiffness is gone, and her fat percent is now 35.8. So that is really good for just a couple of months. We also can see these blood sugar levels, and this is also only with the nutrition and with her diet. So just in a couple of months, we have this very good result. This is a picture of a heart from one of our assessments, and here we can, just as I told you, we can see if there are bacteria and viruses and other problems in the heart. So when we know all about that, it's very easy for us to do the right treatments and give the right recommendations how to heal this, and then have to have a healthy lifestyle after it. So what you can do to prevent your cardiovascular disease, your cardiovascular health, you have to make sure that you have the right diet. You have to release the blood pressure. So if you have a really high blood pressure, and maybe, of course, that is very dangerous if you have a high blood pressure, maybe it's necessary for you to take a pill or some medicine just to lower it for a while. But when we do things to fix this problem, it shouldn't be necessary to have this medicine for high blood pressure. The stress levels, everybody knows that stress is very dangerous for your heart, and that's because of your hormone cortisol will increase when you have lots of stress in your body, and cortisol also affects your cardiovascular system. You will have more stiffness in your arteries when you have high cortisol levels. Of course, we have to exercise, and it could be very good to take some vitamin C, vitamin D, omega-3, as I told you. Magnesium is one of the most necessary minerals for your heart. And nitrogen oxide is very important too. And of course, lots of other things is important. Yes, now we have the intestines. The intestines. So this is also from one of our assessment machines. And here we can see this inflammation in the intestines and in the stomach in this person. And lots of people have some of this or many of these problems, like constipation, diarrhea, leaky gut, Crohn's, ulcerous colitis, food intolerances, EBS, intestinal bowel syndrome. We have enzyme deficiency, lack of hydrochloric acid, and maybe there are microorganisms in the system. So about this leaky gut. The leaky gut is very common nowadays. And leaky gut we have because of not being able to digest, especially gluten and dairy products. The proteins in gluten and dairy products are very, very hard to digest, and we don't have the right enzymes to digest it. So when it comes down to your gut and to your intestine, it's too big. It's peptides and it should be amino acids. So when you can digest this protein to amino acids, and you have these proteins, like peptides, going down to your intestine, they will go through the membranes in the intestines and go out in your body and the system and creates lots of problems. That is leaky gut. So it's very important to heal that. So how you can prevent and solve this problem? Of course, again, you have to have a diet that is good for you and for your problem. And really, trust me, it's so easy to try this out at home. Just get rid of some things, something that you eat often, test it. How is everything working now? Less pain in your muscles, less headaches, less problem with your stomach. It's easy. Just try it. Heal the gut. It's really important to heal the gut. Maybe you need some supplements for that. Add good bacteria and find about your stomach acid. So I just, very short, have to tell you, that's because of my own story. You know, I was just thinking about how could I have this problem with lifting my arms and all of this neurological, and how could I have all of these toxins and parasites and all shit in my body? I figured out when I was a little child, I had always ear infections. Then when I was a teenager, I had this throat problem with tonsillitis problems. After my third child, I have tonsillitis problem for 8 months. I have these antibiotics every single month. And finally, they have to get rid of my tonsils. And then it was fine. But after that, everything started. Back problems, a little bit swollen stomach, you know, things was just building up. And now I understand why. Now I know that dairy products are very related to problems with ear infections and with tonsillitis and with sinusitis. Dairy products. So if you have a kid at home that have lots of problems with that, get rid of dairy products. And with all of these antibiotics, I never take good probiotics. I never heal my gut. So of course, that's why I have all of these food intolerances afterwards. So you see, everything goes together. We have this test in our clinic that we will test the stomach's function. We can measure the pH in your stomach, and we can measure what's going on in the stomach. So that's a really good test if you have problems with your digestion. Obesity and weight problems. Today, 1 of 4 of the population are obese. Do you know that most of the serotonin builds up in the gut? So if you have problems in your intestines, that will affect your humor. who will be a little bit depressed. And that's so unnecessary, because you can deal with that. Diet. Have you heard it before? What shall we eat? We have this lack of hydrochloric acid. If you have less hydrochloric acid, it's impossible to digest. Deficiency of enzymes, of course, other enzymes. The gut flora, probiotics, is really, really important. There are lots of studies that we have seen that obese people, they have a different gut flora than thin people have. And they have tried to transplantate feces from thin person into obese person, and then the obese person, they get thin. So, the gut flora is so important. So important. You have this problem with all of these microorganisms, so if you have lack of hydrochloric acid, your passage is totally open for parasites and bacteria coming down in your gut and make problems there. Exercise, of course, we have to run a little bit, but the diet is much more necessary to lose weight and exercising. Yes, we have the hormones and we have this lymph system. How many of you brush your body with a dry brush? Start with that. Every woman should have a dry brush at home, because that will make your lymph system to work so much better. And your lymph system is going to get rid of all of the toxins in your body. And the lymph system don't have an own circulation pump, just like a cardiovascular system have. You know, we have your heart is beating and beating. The lymph system doesn't have that. So you have to exercise very much. You have to brush yourself. You have to exercise. And for women, it's really, really important, because we have a very complicated lymph system over our breast and in our uterus. And that's because it's necessary for us to get rid of all of these bacteria and things like that when we are giving birth. So that's a normal way, but it's very important for us to think about our lymph system. So dry brush yourself. It's very good to prevent lots of problems, and exercise more. So clean your body. Have the right diet. Hormones like leptin and insulin. Leptin is another really important hormone, but I don't have the time to explain that for you right now, but it's really common to have problem with the leptin. The thyroid, again, so if you have hypothyroidism, it's much easier to have problem with your weight. Exercise. Plastic that disturbs the hormones. I just have to say something about that. Because, you know, nowadays everything is packed in plastic package. We drink water from plastic bottles. And in plastic there are so much estrogen. And especially when you heat up a plastic package. So if you have a water bottle in your car in a sunny, warm day, as today, it will come so much estrogen from the plastic package into the water. So you drink estrogen. Think about that. Stop doing it. You can have a glass bottle or something like that. I know the time is running out, but I really want to show you this short film from the intestine. So if you please can start it. parasites and an obese person. On a 21-year-old female. And here is a man with a polypus, and he has cardiovascular problems. And you look at his intestines. And here's a chronic constipation, breast cancer. Should be red and very gentle just from the beginning. So to clean your colon and to have the right diet and to see that everything is functioning is good. That's, as you see, it's very important, and it's not so difficult to do it. So I think that you have seen all of the patterns here. Everything relates to each other. You see it? We have this. It's very important what you eat, how to eat. That's related to how your thyroid function is, to your intestines. Your teeth health is so important with all of these root canals. Breast cancer, breast problems, everything comes from somewhere. And you just have to figure that out and do what you can do to prevent all of these problems. And as I told you, it's not so difficult. You just have to think a little bit about it. So 7 steps to optimize women's health. Write it down. Let the food be your medicine. Eat for a healthy life. End of the slide. Sorry. Is it possible to just give the advice? With the last picture. Let the food be your medicine. Was the first. Yes, detox, get rid of plastic, chemicals, radiation, heavy metals. Have balance with your energy levels. Have good sleep, exercise, make love, have a happy life. Love yourself. Heal emotional scars. Learn to love yourself. If you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. So that's the most important thing. Take care of your dental, your teeth health, biological tooth care. You can brush your teeth with very good things. Boost your immune system. Maybe you need to take some supplements or some herbs. Prevent. Do health examinations, thermography. Keep track of your own body. That's really important. And soon you can do these assessments here in Lithuania in the new Health Optimizing Clinic. I don't know when it will start, but I think they have a stand outside. And thank you very much for having me here and for listening to me.